like I was saying, like it's a real vulnerable thing, like trying to record vocals, especially when you're not like a trained artist.
Yeah.
Like it's always a super, kind of like, don't open the door right now because I'm doing some embarrassing shit.
Yeah.
But
especially if you've never had like any type of singing lessons before, like the most singing I do is in the car or in the privacy of my own home, like, and now I'm trying to lay down, just even scratch vocals or just vocals that I'm gonna just modulate to death. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, it is. It's I mean, like when you say modulate, like for sure, I'll chop my vocals up most of the time and just use them like in that way. And it's not, I don't even do it a lot, to be honest with you. I'm over here talking like I make a lot of EDM, choppy, vocal-y, future bass sort of shit. I don't, but at the same time, like if I do, it's usually like my voice because, using samples is always kind of like a tricky thing. But
unless you get it out of like a legit sample pack. But like I'm with you. Like I mean, I'll definitely lay down like grunts or like chants or haze or whatever. Like there was a track I did that was kind of a house track, and like I was having a hard time finding like an open like cymbal sound that fit what I was doing, and I just ended up actually taking my vocal and like just kind of making the sound of emulating the sound of like an open hi-hat, and then like it fit the track so perfectly after a little bit of EQ and stuff. And
that's beautiful.
I just ended up rolling with that.
Yeah. And we're live. We've been live for a while. But this is the Audio Files episode 2. My name is Rashad Peters. You can find me online at Wyatt Earp or DS_Wyatt Earp on Instagram to be exact. And my co-host, I'll let him introduce himself.
Yeah, Dustin Brookshire. You can find me right now on Facebook, Dustin Brookshire, or the Audio Files. On Facebook. Check out the Facebook page. Go give us a like, man. Give us a thumbs up. We appreciate it.
Please, please, please. Yes, we do. Definitely, I am wanting to just first start off by addressing the 3-year hiatus. Honestly, I think we owe an explanation. Honestly, we haven't even really discussed it too much. We mentioned it like very briefly before our last episode, but it wasn't anything like that we actually talked about. It's very funny.
And it's kind of crazy because it's not like we didn't talk for 3 years. Like we talk on a pretty regular basis. Just the opportunity to record a podcast, it just kind of missed.
Yeah, it definitely dwindled. The situation was super not conducive for making a podcast. Not that it was bad or anything, but logistically it just didn't work. I was trying to make it happen at a studio that I worked at rather than at my house like I am now, and that was due to the fact I didn't have an interface and yada yada yada. Bottom line, it just wasn't the right time. Sometimes I guess you need a little bit of time to grow, and that was pretty much what happened, especially on my end. I know Dustin was doing it out of his house from day one,
Yeah.
But good.
No, I was ready to go, but it's definitely the situation's got to be right to get it done, and you got to have the right material and the right equipment to get it done. And when you got to go somewhere to do it, it's not always the best situation. Like sometimes, with these podcasts, like we keep our conversations pretty casual and try to be pretty entertaining, and sometimes when you're not in the comfort of your own home, like it kind of makes a difference for some people, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, it wasn't so much the fact that I wasn't comfortable at my spot. It was more the fact that I'm trying to say this without like saying too much, but it basically like wasn't a stable situation. It wasn't like somewhere where I had the keys or anything like that. It was like, I had to kind of get permission to do it. It was a little weird,
right?
But at the end of the day, I always wanted to do this. It wasn't like I was trying to flake on the podcast or anything like that. It's just, it's a much better situation now. That's
damn sure. And now we're back.
Right, and we're back. Yeah, and there's something that I think we addressed it in the last podcast too, but Dustin isn't based in Sacramento like I am. You know, Dustin's in Atlanta, so it's not like I could have just went over to his house and did it. So
yeah,
you know. Anyway,
we're hoping to change that soon. But yeah, that's a whole other discussion. But yeah, the
spoiler alert.
Yes.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, watch out for them spoiler alerts. If you weren't ready for that in this episode, I guess we'll have to put that tag on there.
Oh shit.
And I was thinking about it too. Like we probably got to put a parental advisory on this thing too, because our language gets a little out of control sometimes.
Hey man, we're adults here. This is how I talk. Like this isn't bullshit or anything. Like this is how I really talk on a daily basis. Nah, I'm not at work. I'm in my house. So if this isn't for kids, or it isn't for kids that can't handle a few fucks and a few not bad words.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like fuck, dude. That term "bad words" gets on my fucking nerves. Like, what is a bad word?
Yeah,
I've never really understood like what made them bad.
I don't get it either. I think it's people taking offense to it, and one individual's like, I'm offended by that word, and then they're like, that's a bad word.
That's a bad word.
Yep.
I guess like the origins of the word can make the connotation bad. Like it can make the meaning, like the etymology of the word bad. But at the end of the day, in 2016, like really, are we still talking about bad words? I don't know. That's neither here nor there. We're here to talk about audio shits, right? And there's been a few things that I've been looking at in the audio world that has caught my attention. And one of them has been, I'm a big like synthesizer fan. I'm not by no means like some like master synthesized or sound designer kind of guy. Yeah. But at the same time, I do appreciate like the electronic engineering behind synthesizers, and you know how oscillators play with low frequency oscillator, you know, like the whole, I get really deep into it on the technical side. And there's been some pretty big news lately in the synthesizer world across many fronts, but most Moog. And it's Moog, not Moog, you know, like I hear people say Moog all the time. It's like, nah, that's not it. But Moog re-released their Model D, their Model D synthesizer, which is probably their most iconic synthesizer. Yep. It's pretty much, if you even remotely know what Moog is, you've probably seen this synthesizer before. Yep. It's like it was their flagship sort of machine when they were getting off the ground, and they decided to re-release it, and it's an amazing piece of engineering, you know.
Yeah, and they kind of like they're creating something that is the best of both worlds, because not only are they re-releasing it and giving you kind of that classic Moog sound, like they're also adding a bunch of cool features and MIDI in and out on it, and CV and crap like that, so that you can do a bunch of cool current stuff with it, as well as make some phenomenal sounds.
Yeah, man. Moog pretty much like that is pretty much, in the synthesizer world, in my opinion, that's pretty much the pinnacle. Like you're not really going to get much better quality than you will out of a Moog synthesizer. I mean, you look at even like the VST plugins and a lot of, you know, and even a lot of the hardware too, they modeled their synthesizers after Moog designs. Yeah. You know, in a lot of cases, especially like, well, I guess in the modular world's so deep, like I'm not even going to pretend like I know anything about modular synthesizers, but at the end of the day, like, you do see a lot of the same, at least concepts, being used across most synthesizers. Yeah, you know, in both worlds.
The Moog ladder filter is something that's emulated in almost every VST synthesizer that's out there.
That's very true.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Surum does it, Massive does it. You know, those are just to name a few. Like, I'm sure the list of VSTs that emulate that ladder filter go on and on and on and on.
Yeah, and I really like the fact that like a lot of Moog stuff is, I think all of their stuff is handcrafted. Like there's really people working on your stuff, and it's real hands and sweat equity that got put into it, which I think really speaks to the character of each machine. Like I feel like each machine has its own sort of like sort of quality. You know, at least every machine that I've ever played on, it's always felt a little different. Like there's always just a little like, oh, it's a little brighter, or it's a little fatter than, you know, this other Moog machine that I got to play on, you know.
Definitely, yeah. And I mean, it's something that, you know, software is as good as software gets. I mean, they're never going to be able to emulate that randomness of hardware. Like you can't do it unless, I mean, you put an algorithm there that every time you fire the software up, it's going to do something different, which, I mean, could be exhausting, I think, for users. I don't think that's the experience that users of software are looking for.
Definitely. I mean, like software is getting so close. We'll get into that later, but like software is getting like so close, and you know, to the untrained eye, it would almost seem like hardware is going away. But I think, in my opinion, you know, for whatever 7 years, you know, covering this stuff, it's just changing. Like the hardware landscape has become so much integrated with what you can do with a computer, because computers are so much more powerful than, you know, most classic hardware synthesizers. It would be kind of dumb not to take advantage of it, you know. Like for example, like when MPC released the Renaissance, everybody was up in arms that it wasn't standalone.
Right.
And I thought like it was brilliant. Like of course it had to be connected to your computer, because what's going to run, like why would I go out and buy an MPC for, you know, they would have to charge like $8,000 or something for it, when I already have like a $3,000 or, you know, $2,000 machine that I run all my other shit off of.
Right.
Like, do you really think I'm going to go out and buy like go drop another $2-3 grand on your machine, when my machine can probably do what yours can 10 times better? No. You know, and it costs like about the same.
Yeah.
Like, of course, it makes sense. And they could cut the price ridiculous at that point. Like, if they're just making a controller with software, of course.
Yeah.
It made perfect sense to me.
Yeah, but I don't get why. I mean, you wouldn't make hardware that interfaces with software and with a computer today. Like, it really doesn't make sense, because there's so many people that are so deep into Ableton and Logic and Pro Tools and everything, FL Studio, and there's so many people that, you know, they like using software, but, you know, they want to break into hardware. You know, they want to get that fat analog sound out of a piece of hardware, or they just want to use the filters, you know, or they want to be hands-on with something. Like, I mean, you can't fault people for wanting to do both, and I think it's a beautiful thing now that so much of this is crossing over. Like, that was one of the things. You know, I'm obviously not going to go out and drop $3,500 on a synth anytime soon, just because I don't have that kind of money. But like, that was one of the exciting things that I read about it, was the fact that, you know, they really did set it up so that it's ready to go to kind of plug and play with whatever you have in place. You know. You either play.
You're talking about the Model D, correct?
Yeah, the Model D. Yeah, it's, you know, it's got MIDI in and out on it. You know, it's got multiple audio in it so that you can do routing. It's got CV routing in there so that you can route other things out. Yeah, like, I mean, honestly, it's from what it sounds like, you're gonna get the best of both worlds for this thing. And if you got $3,500 to drop on
go ahead
it,
and drop that.
Yeah, go ahead and do it.
And if you want to buy it from Moog, it's $37, bitch. So pony that shit up.
Yeah, and they are individually numbered too, is something else that I was reading. Yeah, because I think you may be right. You know, I'm not sure on the handcrafted thing, but it would make sense to me, honestly.
So it's definitely handcrafted. I'm reading it from the side. It says each newly built Moog model or mini Moog Model D is lovingly handcrafted by the employee owners at the Moog factory in Asheville. So it's for sure, you're getting a piece of history, you know, like when you're buying this machine, and it's priced that way. So
yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's well worth the money, you know. Like, if you're that into synthesizers, if I had $4,000, I would definitely buy one. Without even hearing it, you know, just based on the Sub 37 that they released a few years ago.
Yeah,
like that machine's such a beast.
I played with one of those in a Sam Ash the other day, and yeah, like, even on their little, you know, they had like one of the little guitar PA speakers setup to it. But even on that thing, like that was actually probably the ideal thing, mono situation. Like it sounded phenomenal coming out of there.
Crazy.
Yeah, just phenomenal. Yeah, like
okay.
I would love to break down and buy some hardware, but like I'm just it's like, where am I going to put it right now? I walked by my studio today and like kind of had like a sad tear moment, because I think I mentioned last week, I hadn't been in there in a couple of weeks, and that, like I still haven't been in the studio. I've been creating, but like it's all on the laptop at this point, just because
it's more convenient.
It's more convenient, and damn, two-story houses, man, the upstairs get hot, and if I go up there and turn on my gear, like it just gets 10 times worse. So I'd rather sit downstairs where it's cool, it's comfortable.
Yeah, I live upstairs in an apartment, so I like there's no escaping. I'm just hot all the time. But I broke down and bought like an AC unit. So actually my girl bought it, but I have an AC unit in here now in my room. Yeah. Because there's not central air in my apartment, unfortunately. But
what do you live in?
Dude, I live. Didn't we discuss it? I don't know if we talked about it on air, but I live in the hood. Like, it's not Pretendville over here.
An apartment from the 1920s and shit?
That too. Yeah, it's old as fuck. But it's actually getting better in the neighborhood. But the building is just so ridiculous.
That's crazy. That is fucking.
It's so ridiculous.
It seems impossible that there's buildings without air conditioning.
Without central air, right? I'm like, what the fuck? And there's a lot of them out here in Sacramento. Like, I'm looking at, because I'm moving soon, like very soon. Yeah. And I'm looking and I'm like, oh my God, like there's a lot of houses that are in my range that don't have AC. This is ridiculous. This is Sacramento. Like, what are you doing?
That's rough.
It is Death Valley out. Well, I don't want to say that, but yeah, it's hot as shit. Look up Sacramento weather any day in July, and you'll be like, "Oh, thank God I'm not in Sacramento today." It is the devil's asshole outside.
Yeah, 106.
Dude,
but it's a dry heat.
Yeah, it feels like 110 with the oven on. Yeah, like, that's what it feels like. That's crazy. It's too crazy. It's too crazy, man. But yeah, and you were talking about hardware, like where you're gonna put it. Like, yeah, I'm running into that problem right now. It's that, like, I have a base station 2, and like when you buy one piece of gear, I'm finding like, oh, I need this too. Yeah. And, oh, now that doesn't work, so I need to buy this little thing, and oh, now I need cables for this. Yep. And by the end of the day, like you're out another $200.
Man, I had to go pick up when I got my keyboard. Like I have a pretty nice desk that I got from
you do.
I think Guitar Center, and like I put my keyboard on the desktop because that's just where I like to have it and where I like to work. And I was able to put my keyboard from my computer right in front of it, and like I can still work the mouse and everything, but my monitor station, like I didn't have a place for it, so I had to go out and get like a DJ laptop stand and put the monitor station up there. And actually, like, it's great because it's a little bit higher and stuff, but it was still it's sick, like right? Yeah, but it's like every time I get something, I'm like, shit, I got to go out and get something else. This is ridiculous. So I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, man, it's so funny. Like I got a bunch of shit at once, which I don't recommend. Like I recommend like actually, planning out your purchases a little bit better. Yeah. But I got it and I was like, all right, like I pretty much had a solution for what I was going to do. I was like, all right, I know what stands I need to get. I know like how I'm going to do this. But then it got here and my desk wasn't big enough. And it's like, oh, fuck. And now I'm like, I have to get more stands. And now it's like, all right, I thought that I was going to just be able to deal with, a situation. Like, I don't have a wireless keyboard, but I run everything off my laptop. So the keyboard's kind of far away and, yada, yada, yada. Make a long story short, like, I need, like, 5 more stands in order to get, like, where I'm comfortable. And it's like, damn, like, I'm not trying to, I just dropped so much money on all this. And now I'm going to go right ahead and spend some more. It's kind of a catch-22. Like, I love all my gear. Don't get me wrong. They're all my babies. Like, It's like having a lot of kids.
Yeah,
You know,
it
because
really
you want to pay
is.
attention to all of them.
It's really crazy too to think about though, because like if you kind of just like strip away the process of like actually making music, like I mean you really need like a laptop and some good headphones and you can make music. Like I mean
You're done.
yeah, like I mean there's really no excuse. I mean you're talking about if you're like out there just trying to get started making music, like you're looking at a pretty minimal investment, assuming you have a laptop or a computer, which most people do nowadays.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you buy a decent set of headphones so that you can hear what you're doing,
And you get a decent mix.
yeah,
That's important.
and you get money to get. I think FL Studio is $99 for like the basic version to break in on it. I mean, you're talking about like a $200 investment there just to make some music, and I mean, you draw everything in on the piano roll. Like, I've watched tons of producers that have 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, and like they're just following these people that they're drawing in every note. Actually, and some of them have more than 1,000. There's some of them that are up there around 4,000 or 5,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
And that's what they're doing. But I think you and I are kind of the same boat, and like we like one of the first things we clicked on back in school was like music theory, like playing the keyboard. You were messing around on the keyboard, and I was turning around like, "Hey, what are you doing?" So like I think that's definitely part of it. Like, is you want to have that experience of making music, but like if you just want to break into it, like you can do it pretty easily.
For sure. Yeah. And I mean, that's definitely like, I think in my opinion is the key.
Yeah.
Like, you can have like the dopest graphics and all the stuff. Like that's important too. Don't get me wrong. You're a salesman.
Yeah.
If you're really trying to make money off of it, like, which is what everybody's trying to do. I don't know why that's such a taboo thing to say. Like, I feel I even like when I said it, I kind of felt like, ooh,
I
right?
think because it's perceived as such an art, it's art.
Yeah.
So like you shouldn't be making money off it. You should just be happy making art.
And I think that's the mindset that a lot of people have, and I think that's why a lot of people don't make it too.
I think so. I think you're right.
But but like, who am I? I haven't made it for sure. But at the end of the day, we're all work in progress, and all the cliche shit you want to say.
Yeah.
Like insert cliche saying right here.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, like you are a salesman, and you want to make money off of it. That's what everybody's goal is. I don't give a fuck what they tell you.
No.
And in order to do that, your music has to stand out.
Yeah.
More than your shine, because I've seen people it looks like in their mom's bedroom or like some like crazy setting, and I'll be like, oh my god, like that is actually decent. And you're playing it out of the computer speakers that you probably got from Dell, and the mix sounds decent, and it sounds decent, and you're playing it on YouTube through your phone. And it's like, how, like what, like, and then I started realizing, oh, it's because like they have a crazy ear or something, or they're trained, they're musically trained. And you don't have to be trained, but you definitely have to, get more in on not even the theory, but just playing consistently and wanting to become a musician.
Yeah, definitely. And like, the theory is something that is so important. Like, I actually just stumbled onto something this past week through a YouTube channel that was like a hacking music theory for electronic musicians, and it bridged so many gaps for me that I had regarding like modes and kind of like intervals, and just kind of building the structure behind the music theory. Like I've always kind of like loosely known how to play and how to make chords and how to make stuff that sounds good, but like this course just like bridged so many gaps. It's like 14 hours worth of webinars, but like the way he breaks it down and kind of explains stuff and kind of explains, the whys, why a certain mode sounds the way it does. Like it finally, I don't know, it was that one thing that finally clicked for me. You could sometimes you can watch 100 YouTube videos regarding a subject, and you're just like, God, I still don't get this. And then you finally stumble on that one where the person just explains it in a way that it clicks, and you're like, oh, okay, I get it now. Thank you.
Yeah. And You said you found this on YouTube?
Yeah,
And it's 14 hours?
yeah, it's a
God.
it's a course through Warp Academy.
Warp Academy.
Yeah, so I'll give them a free
I don't
plug. But like I
Yeah, for sure. If it's good. Yeah.
I definitely recommend it. It was like $99.
Okay. So it was a paid YouTube.
Yes. No, YouTube is where I found it. I actually found it through an artist named Vespers, who's an artist. I believe he's from like Canada, and he does a bunch of sound design videos. But he also has a website that he runs, and he went with Warp Academy, and this other guy named Ray Harmony, I believe, is his alias name that he goes by.
Warp Academy.
Yep. And it's like 4 webinars that are roughly about like 3.5 hours a piece, and they were done live, so like there's some Q&A and stuff in there. But actually I found the Q&As, even though some of the questions seemed a little ridiculous, and because they were like typed out over a Google Hangout, like it caused the guy to go into further explanations regarding stuff, and that was actually what was pretty helpful and helped make it click really for me.
Wow, that's good.
Yeah,
I've never heard of that Vespers guy, but I'm gonna check him out for sure. Our Warps Academy, but I think that learning music theory is definitely a key part, at least the basics. The basics will definitely get you in the door, because I think information is good when having music, or when having music. When making music, information's great to have. Yeah. It's like more tools in your toolbox.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I think that you have to not think so much too.
True.
And having all of the information in your toolbox, like if you have 100 tools in your toolbox, it's going to be kind of hard. If you're looking for a kick drum and you have 1,000 kick drums, or if you're looking for a chord progression and like so many of them.
Yep.
Like that can kind of make things hard. But like that's a great point. Like theory is very important.
Yeah. So one of the things that one of the hacks that they gave in the course, which like kind of just changed like my creative flow and like really just helped me like bust out ideas, because like I've done like probably 5 tracks in the past 3 days, like full songs.
Wow.
Yeah, like it's been a crazy week. Like
that's impressive.
Yeah, dude, I'm riding a crazy high off of it. Like I've been pretty juiced off of it all week. But like one of the hacks that he gave, and like he readily supports like sharing this information. So like I don't feel bad putting this out there.
Oh yeah, this is great. Yeah.
But one of the hacks that he said is when you are trying to figure out a chord progression, which is typically, most people when they start a song start it based off of a chord progression. I'm not going to say every time, but like for me, like sometimes that's how I need to start it, or I'll start it with a bass line or whatever. But he said, figuring out your chord progression across all of the white notes. And if you want to play a major scale, you do it based off of C. If you want to play a minor scale, you base it off of A. And then once you have your chord progression planned out, you can just transpose, because that minor scale matches up to any of the other keys, because it's the same formula across all of the keys, which was like that ding moment for me. It was like, oh God, I don't need to go and try to figure out what scale I'm playing in. Like there's a real easy way to do this.
100%.
Yeah. And then learning about the modes and how the different modes sound and the different emotions that they play was game changing as well, because then I started playing in these other modes and, laying out my chord progressions there, and then just transposing it to the key that I wanted it in.
Exactly.
And like, I mean, it's just like, it's like the magic mushroom in Mario. You go from being this little thing to like this big, giant, powerful person who can just create. And like, yeah, that was the big like game changing thing for me. And there's a lot of other stuff in there that they go into that was, eye opening for me, and stuff that I didn't know about, like creating melodies and counterpoint melodies, and how to create good bass lines. They actually go into some stuff in there about actually laying down vocals, like how to lay down vocals, how to write a good song, how to write a memorable song. And then
that all sounds great.
yeah, and then they start talking too about, putting songs together, how to transition if you're playing in, a C major scale, how to transition to that to, maybe you want to put it into like a C Lydian scale and play something a little bit different. He starts to go into stuff like that. So,
that all sounds like it's very, very useful information. And it's Warped Academy. Yeah. I want to know for like my own sake too. I love stuff like that.
Yeah, or you can go to vespers.ca.
Vespers.ca, Canadian dude, huh?
Yeah, VESPERS.ca. Yeah, and it's on his site, or it was run through Warp Academy, or you can go to Warp Academy. I don't know. I did it through Vespers' website just because I had messed with him on YouTube. I followed him on YouTube for probably a couple of years now because he does some pretty phenomenal sound design stuff as well.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I love YouTube and what it's doing for the community too. It's making everybody step their game up so much more. Like, because there's so much information, there's so much good information out there too that like is actually useful and applicable in your immediate musical life.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So
yes.
That's awesome. But I did want to add one little thing before we kind of switch speeds here to the whole getting started with music theory and whatnot.
Yeah.
In addition to watching YouTubes and playing and practicing however you decide to practice making beats or whatever.
Yep.
It's good to learn how to play songs you like.
Yes.
And not even like just watching the YouTube tutorial and copying whatever that person does, but listening to music and trying to pick out the key with your ear. Because that is probably one of the most important things that I'm not even good. I'm not even going to sit here and act like I have, a great ear. I don't, but I know that I don't. And some people might think that their ear is better than it is, me included.
Right.
And it's not, and I learned that most by starting to play in a band, and trying to pick out songs because they didn't, like, no band really writes music that I've ever seen. Everybody pretty much just plays with their ear, and that is so key. Yep. Like, you have to learn how to do that.
Well, that was one of the things I noticed immediately after I got through like the second webinar with this course, is that like I started hearing chord progressions and intervals in the music that I was listening to, which is something that like I had struggled with heavily before. Like, I had not been able to do it. Like, the first thing I noticed was I was able to, like, I'd always had a tough time picking out major and minor chords. Like, I had done some, like, there was an app on the iPad a while back that was like a listening app, and like I was always getting them wrong. Like, I can't explain it because like they just always sounded close to me. But once you kind of figure out the intervals and you kind of play out, your intervals, it becomes much easier to hear the difference between a major and minor chord for me.
Process of elimination.
Yeah.
You get to start playing that game.
Yeah.
Once you have 2 notes, the third note becomes easy. And once you have 3 notes, then it's unlocked.
Yeah.
Now you can start adding 7ths, you can start adding 11ths, you can start taking away thirds, you can start it's completely a free game now. Like, everything, that's what I've noticed mostly, is that everything's based off of 3 notes in chord game.
Yep.
And even in melody game, like, really, if your first 3 notes of your melody, kind of can play nice with whatever the first chord you're going to play is, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be much easier to find the second note of that or the fourth note of that melody, or the second chord of that progression, in my opinion.
Definitely.
But, that brings me to another point of, like, beat makers versus producers. And that's been a point of contention for I don't know, like, as long as I've been making beats, like, you've always heard that argument, like, what constitutes a beat maker, what constitutes a musician, or a producer, excuse me. It's
so crazy to think about, and there's a valid discussion against both of them, I think. Maybe not valid, but there's a valid argument between a beat maker versus a producer. But it's really it's really silly to think if you take a step back from it and go, okay, I'm creating music. I'm producing music. If you're making music, if you're putting drums down and then laying a chord progression and then finding a bass line, technically you're producing music. Like you're making a production. I think where the line has gotten blurred is like you have these super producers that work with these pop artists, and they do so much more than just make the beat. You know, they're in the studio with the artist. They're telling them, you know, okay, sing this part. Okay, you need to harmonize over this. Okay, you need to hit this over this. You know, you need to lay this back. And then after the vocals are laid, you know, they're going back in and they're like, oh, we need to, you know, drop this here, add this here, do this. You know, they're full on involved in the process. Where, you know, a beat maker to me is somebody who is making a beat and then just throwing it up on, you know, BeatStars or SoundClick or something like that and selling it, and then kind of just like sending their kid away to school. Like that's they made the beat, now they're done with it. But
yeah, that, I mean, and that is it's so funny that beatmaker has like that sort of connotation on the end of it. Like when you call someone a beat maker, it's almost an insult in the industry. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, is that right? Like, it's something that I've always struggled with, because I know plenty of beat makers that could play, you know, even some of the best producers well, I wouldn't say they play them under the table, but they can hang with them.
Right.
Like you know, like they can at least hold their own in their accord. And I know a lot of beat makers that do more than just like send it off. Like they'll have revisions.
Right.
They'll have, you know, like I think that's almost like just as impressive as being in the studio with someone and, you know, directing them in a certain way.
Oh, without a doubt.
You know, because even when you're doing that, when you're in the studio with someone, you're vibing off of them, like the energy is completely different.
Yep.
If you're getting an email, like you kind of have to, like it's all on your shoulders.
Yeah, you got to decode that energy. You got to, you know, you got to figure out what like the mood of the song is and go from there. I agree with you 100% on that. I think, you know, like the question I got asked when I got my internship at my first studio, you know, during my interview, like the question came up and, you know, I was like, yeah, I'm a producer. And at the time, you know, was I a producer technically? Like, no.
Debatable.
Yeah, it's an iffy situation. But regardless, you know, it came back and he's like, so do you make beats or do you work with artists? And I was like, well, I kind of just make beats. He's like, okay, so you're more of a composer. And I think composer is more of a valid title, but then again, like you walk that line of beat maker versus composer, because a beat maker may just be somebody who grabs a sample, chops a sample, rearranges it, and lays down some drums and, you know, filters a bass line out of the same sample and doesn't really play any instrumentation with it. Versus,
and even chops up some drums is like iffy.
Right.
Like they could take a loop that someone else made.
Exactly.
And put it over the music that someone else made.
Yeah, versus
like
somebody
as is.
Right, versus somebody who actually composed that song, you know, wrote a chord progression and a melody and a harmony and everything else. So yeah, man, I think it's like it's that weird situation of oh God, what do I tiptoe on this? What am I, you know, like ultimately at the end of the day, like I think we just have to be artists and creators. Like I just want to create music. I try not to get caught up with titles, but like if you want to work in this industry, you better be caught up on some titles. You better know how to label yourself.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, branding is so important, you know, especially in today's day and age when anybody can basically start a business with a laptop.
Yeah.
You know, like you have to be able to stand out, and that's the struggle. Like, I mean, for some, it's not. For like, you know, I'd say 90% of us though.
Yeah.
It's tough to put yourself out there. It's not a natural thing to want to be, you know, the center of everything.
Yeah.
You know, but at the same time, I guess it's not really you that's the center of everything. It's your brand. But then that line kind of gets fuzzy because like when you start, you don't have any employees. So it is you.
Yep. It's all on you.
Yeah. So it's like I don't want to be that person, but you got to be.
Yeah.
Like there's no other way to really make yourself stand out than to be in people's faces.
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, like at this point in the game, like I definitely consider myself a producer. Like the products that I put together, it's my productions. I'm in there doing work on these tracks that I make, and then when I do work with artists, I'm making revisions either over email, because a lot of the people that I work with at this point, aren't local to me. I mean, I do work with some local artists, but a lot of people, I don't limit myself to just working with local artists. And like you hit the nail on the head with that. Like you're 100% correct. Like working over email sometimes
it's super tough,
way more difficult,
it's scary. It's almost scarier.
Yeah,
it's almost scary because you have nothing to draw from other than your own vibe.
You got to just take that jump sometimes, man, and that's a scary thing to do. Like, okay, this is what I'm going to do with this track, and you got to just do it, take that leap of faith, and then send it back to the artist and hope that they like it. And like that awkward, few hours or days or whatever it may be between the time you hear back from an artist after the revisions is horrifying.
Especially if it's someone that you really want to work with.
Yep.
Like if you actually put like a submission into a pool of other producers that are all trying to work with this one artist, and you don't know what their hot is, like unless they're a big name artist and you can listen to their music and kind of get a vibe of what they like. But at the end of the day, like it's not like them telling you, hey, this is what I want, like sending you a YouTube clip or some shit like that. Like, hey, this is what I like, so make something like this.
A crazy situation I had with an artist is there was a lady and her husband that they're a duet, and she plays piano and he sings, and they were actually looking to switch up and kind of do some more modern electro type pop stuff where she was going to be doing some singing, but she plays the keys. She's just a classically trained musician, amazing musician.
Oh, sweet.
And she sent me a track idea where she had played the piano, and like at first, my piano playing chops are not, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm probably like a 2 or a 3, to be 100% honest.
Nah, you're better.
But like it was, I get this amazing piano piece that she wants me to kind of make an electro track around, and I'm just like, it was horrifying. Like, even knowing that I was the only producer that she was potentially working with at the time, like it's just horrifying. Like you're like, oh God. I ended up making like 3 different tracks that I sent her.
That's always a good thing.
Yeah. So like, I mean, it was cool. They all kind of had a little bit different vibe to them. But yeah, I ended up just sending her like 3 different tracks, and like she was actually in love with one of the tracks I did, and I think it was actually the very first track that I had laid down.
Isn't that funny how that's how it works out all the time? It's like the first one that you do is usually your best one.
Yep.
There have been some cases, like especially when I work with samples, like I've noticed with samples, if I'm going to sample something, the third flip is usually the one where I'm like, oh, okay. Like I finally got comfortable with it enough to where I can, massage it to where I like it exactly. But like usually if it's an original, the first one's usually the best.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
No, you're right, because I think like after that point, you like it just becomes a mental game with yourself. Like it's mental warfare on yourself. Like that's, and like listen, it's so important to take breaks, and I've realized that like because some days during my lunch at work, like I'll take my laptop to work and work on stuff, and like for my 45 minutes, it's like that little exercise of, okay, what can I bang out in 45 minutes? And like, it just gets exhausting. You're sitting there listening to something so hard for 45 minutes and you're like, God, this is no good. And you close your laptop. But then usually when I get home, I'm like, no, I could work with this. You change.
It's all right. Yeah.
Yeah. You change a couple things, and especially when it comes to original productions. But yeah, I think you're right too with samples. Like sampling and doing flips on samples is kind of a different game. Because you got to make sure your chops are up to par.
Super tight.
Yeah, super like tight. Kind of they play out right and don't sound goofy, and you got the right tempo and everything like that. Yeah.
I wish I could be one of those guys though that didn't have to have type chops and can play like unquantized. And
Oh man,
you know, my timing's just not that good. I have to have my shit on a grid, motherfucker.
Yep. Man,
Yeah.
Illmind had me intimidated the other day. He was talking about.
You saw that? I saw that too.
He was talking about making a beat, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't quantize." He's like, "Quantizing is no good. Like, you lose the feel of it." And I'm like, "Man, I gotta quantize every time."
I quantize all my shit. He was like, "Yeah, I'll leave it at like 20%." I was like, 20%? I tried it once. I was like, "There's no way I could leave my my drums like this."
You know what? You know what's funny is like, there's been times where I've been in the studio and I've been laying stuff down and been, on.
It's like, why am I? Go ahead.
Yeah, just on, just playing really well, and like the machine has a quantize 50% option on there, like where it'll move it halfway between where it's at and full quantize, and I've been able to half quantize it, and I just end up half quantizing everything, and it's not on grid, but everything matches up, and it sounds good that way. It's got like a nice swing, and it's got a nice or natural swing to it. It's got a nice feel to it, but like sometimes I do that and I'll come back to it and I'm just like, God, this shit is terrible. Like, it's so offbeat. Like, I got to go back in and quantize everything at this point.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's always like a kind of risky thing to leave shit unquantized because it's usually going to be kind of off. Like, it's going to be noticeable. Like, oh, okay, is that what he's going for, or is that like what his real ability is? Yeah. Like, I always feel like that.
What's funny is I find myself, Machine does this thing when you tap tempo in Machine that it won't just give you even tempos. It won't just give you like a 95 BPM. It'll give you like a 95.23. Like, and I find that doing that and quantizing at those kind of weird tempos actually gives stuff like a cool flavor. Like if you quantize it 100% onto the grid, it doesn't sound bad. Like those percentages of a tempo of a beat per minute. Really, sure. It gives it a nice feel.
Yeah. Another thing I've been playing with is a swing.
Yep.
And I finally kind of realized like how to use it in a way. Like, you shouldn't use too much.
Yeah.
Like, swing is something that you should pretty much keep at whatever the default is of the software or hardware you're using. At least in my opinion, this is completely my opinion.
Yeah.
This isn't like, I'm not some super expert in this, but at the same time, I found it works best when you increment very like subtly. Like I've been using my MPC at like 53, 52 swing.
Yeah.
Instead of at 50, even sometimes 54.
Right.
Like, but I don't go past 55. I don't go past or under 50.
Right.
Like I keep it in that 53 to 50 range, and it gives my drums like that little, almost like it's ahead, but it's not. Like it's on the grid, but it's just like if you took every note in piano roll and just nudged it like by 2 samples or some shit like that.
Right.
That's the kind of feel it gives it, and it's like it's something that I've been experimenting with, and it's something that it works sometimes, and sometimes I'm like, ooh, no one's gonna hear this.
But, this is going nowhere.
Yeah, this is going in my sketchbook folder. But yeah, man, I think that playing with swing and the quantize percentage is key.
Yeah, I definitely mess with swing. On the machine, I don't typically do it. Like, it starts at 0 on the machine, so I don't know why the difference, but I typically, like, I find myself usually between like 1% and 2% on the swing. Like, it's not much. Like, you got to be real careful with it, unless that full blown swing feel is what you're going for, which for the stuff I do most of the time is not it.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
No.
I mean, I would love to make a track like that, like a swing type, like jazzy.
Yeah,
20s like speakeasy sort of track.
Definitely.
Track, like that'd be cool. I should probably do that one day.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, all this talk about like machine and whatnot is it's making me think about like how far all this shit's come. Like I I actually started on FL.
Yep.
But it was like FL6, like the demo version.
For sure.
You couldn't save anything, so you had to finish all your tracks in one sitting.
Yep.
You know, which I never did. So like, I didn't even get good at. I didn't get good at that practice, like finishing your tracks in one sitting instead of like coming back to them 20 times. But at the end of the day, like it taught me just the basics, and then I got my hands on it in PC, and that was kind of like industry standard.
Yeah.
You know, like at the time,
everybody was using it then. You know, you know that like in the beginning of hip hop, you know, from probably like the mid '80s. Well, I mean, even if you go back to like the SP 1200, like you know, early '80s, like that's the hardware that people used.
Yeah, man, and you know, with another synth, like a Yamaha mid synth, like you know, a motif, or
right.
Our Roland had a bunch of synth, like back in the day, you know, the Tritons, and like an MPC 2000 and a Triton, that was like the fucking classic hip hop.
Yep.
The fucking starter pack of the
yes, sir.
from 90, you know, from whenever the MPC came out or whenever the Triton came out till, you know, about 2008-ish.
Yep.
2009. That's when stuff started kind of getting weird, and that's like kind of right when I hopped in.
Yep.
It was like right in the border between software catching up and hardware still being superior.
Yeah.
So I kind of we both did.
Yep.
You know, like we were both in engineering school at the same time.
Yep.
So, you know, we both kind of got to see like how shit was progressing, and it was like, oh, you don't need all of this hardware anymore. All you need is a MIDI keyboard and some dope, you know, fucking sample-based plugins.
Yeah.
Or like some really nicely programmed soft synths, and you're good.
Yeah, exactly. You know, some dope samples and battery. And you know, if you want
battery,
if you want to make, you know, your own synths, then you go into a you know, massive, or like that complete package, like the complete software has really kind of been, I don't want to say the industry standard because I kind of hate that term, but like it's
fuzzy.
Yeah, it's but it's like complete is really complete. Like, I mean, you can pick up the complete package and be good to go without any need for anything else.
Yeah, man. Yeah, complete is great. I mean, all Native Instruments shit is pretty much, it's great. Like you're not gonna feel like you wasted your money if you spent money on anything NI.
Yeah.
From what I haven't messed with their hardware. I can't speak to that. I mean, my homie loves the machine. Everybody, a lot of people that I talk to, they love their machine, but I've never played with one, so I can't speak to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think hardware is hardware. Like, I mean, it's whatever you're comfortable working on. You know, I love my machine. I find myself using it less and less though at this point. Because I like working in Logic now. You know, there's
just Logic vanilla, no drum sequencing at all.
Yeah, like I mean, I use battery for most of my drums now, and then, you know, being able to put audio in there. The only thing I struggle with in Logic is if I have a sample of something, chopping it up so that, you know, I can play it, because the EXS24 is it's still a little wonky to me.
I was going to say the ESX24, I see people use it all the time.
Yep.
And it sounds way different whenever the fuck I use it. What are you guys doing?
Yeah.
All you YouTubers that are using ESX24, please put up a tutorial of what your settings are, because I don't understand.
Well,
like they look exactly the same. Go ahead.
And the thing I don't understand is like editing audio. It's not like you know, like Contact does a good job of, when you drop a sample in there, you can kind of edit where your chop points are. You know, Machine does a good job of it. I'm sure the MP does a good job of it. Like that's the thing I struggle with. You know, I could take an audio region and I know how to set like transient markers on it, but once it gets into the sampler, if there's any adjustments that need to be made, like it seems impossible to do. Like I haven't found that part. So that's like the one part I struggle with.
My homie Prop is a genius with Contact and sampling. Like he says it's the best sampler you can have.
Oh, I'm sure.
I mean, like he's a really respected producer in my opinion. You know, like out here he's very well known, but he'll definitely be on the podcast later on.
We need to get him.
Oh yeah, he's definitely coming. But Yeah, man. Like Contact, I've messed with it a little bit once I got my hands on the MPC. It was over. I'm not fucking with ESX24. I'm not fucking with any of those things anymore. Yeah, that is in the past. Sometimes I used to play my 808s through that, but then I learned how to do it in MPC software, so I'm done.
Yeah.
Divorcing ESX24. So.
Yeah, you know, like the part I struggle with in the machine, and the reason I've gone away from using the machine is just the way that it deals with audio loops. Like when you throw an audio loop in there, there's no other way to have it triggered except for by playing a MIDI note. So like if you want just like a loop in there, if you got like a hi-hat loop or something and you throw that on a track, like you have to put a MIDI note down in order to get that to trigger. And like you can either set it on a one shot or set it on an ADSR envelope, and it's just kind of goofy. I really like the ability, like Logic, you know, I could take an audio file and drag it into my session and go.
It's beautiful.
But then I can go right below it and I can set in a battery instance and have some drums played by MIDI right there. So yeah, like that's really been my thing that I've gone to. I just got to figure out. I got to find the happy medium at some point. And I think that's kind of what it is with all software, because all these software companies just write their stuff very specific to the way, you know, they're all individual creative people who just, they're like, yes, this is exactly what we want this to do.
Yeah, I have to think that, you know, that they definitely think about like integration with Logic, and like at least I would hope that they would. I don't know any of these people that work on these programs, but
yeah,
like, you know, they would think about like what workflows would be best, and you know, I'm sure they get tons of feedback from all of the sponsorships that they have. You know, NI is everywhere.
Yeah, and I feel like betas and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely, betas are huge. All the, you know, iStandard stuff. Their deal with them for so long had to be huge, you know, with all those great producers giving away their workflows with the stuff. Like it, you know, that's definitely reared its head on YouTube. And, you know, Machine Academy, or what is it called?
Machine Masters.
Machine Masters, that's right.
Yeah.
Machine Masters, that YouTube channel is great for all NI stuff, man.
Well, and they've really broadened their reach too, because they've started doing push tutorials, and they've started doing a bunch of other stuff. Yeah, Machine Masters is they're definitely one of my favorite channels on YouTube.
Yeah, they're killing it right now, man. Isn't that crazy? We're talking about YouTube like is YouTube legit now? YouTube is legit.
Oh, YouTube's been legit, I think.
That for a minute, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, but it's like it's really just dawning on me. Like I really have subscriptions that I watch on a regular basis, and it kind of just happened for me.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
My subscription list has been growing for crazy long, and at some point, like, I got to go back in because like my interests have changed, so I think I need to remove some of these subscriptions from there.
That's funny.
But yeah, like a couple years ago, I was talking with a buddy of mine, and it was like, we're going to YouTube University. I need to figure something out. Let me go to YouTube University to figure this out. And it's like, I mean, if there was...
That's such a... did you coin that? Or did you hear that somewhere?
No, I'm sure. I think I've heard several people use that. That's definitely a term that's out there.
That's out there, okay.
Yeah, I mean, if YouTube was accredited, man, I'd probably have like 4 PhDs in all of the videos that I've watched at this point.
How many hours of YouTube do you think you've watched in your life? I couldn't even tell you.
No, I couldn't put a number on it right now.
It's a lot.
Yes.
I mean, probably at least like 8,000 hours.
Easily. Yeah, like
easy.
Because some of the stuff that I've watched is I watch, sometimes I'll throw on like a 45-minute video, especially since they, you know, a couple years ago.
Movies.
Yeah, it took the cap off of, you know, because it used to be YouTube was what, like you could put a 10-minute video if you weren't like a paid account or something like that. And now they've changed that up. So, you know, as the videos have gotten longer, which I don't necessarily think is a good thing. I think some people on YouTube are very long-winded and very just, you know, throwing their opinion in there. Like, no, okay, look, just show me how to do this. Be more direct.
Tutorials, yes.
Yeah, sure. Exactly. Like, there's definitely a time and place to be opinionated and be funny and tell jokes and have sidebars and anecdotes and shit. But for like the tutorials, if you're trying to teach somebody something, like, be direct with it. I think.
Get to the fucking point. I hate that. Is like one of my hugest, like pet peeves about tutorials. I have to fast forward through shit, and now like I'm missing key points, and then I get to go try and do what I'm doing. And I'm like, this shit doesn't work.
Yeah.
Like, fuck this guy. I'm not, and it hurt. Like, I'm not going to watch your channel anymore because, like you just wasted all my time for me to not even have it work. And I'm talking from someone that has no tutorials on YouTube I do have interest in doing them, but I don't think YouTube is a medium anymore, and I think that with the advent of Snapchat and Instagram, people's attention spans aren't long.
No.
You
can't hold people's attention for 25 minutes to show them how to do something.
Yeah.
That's too long. Like, people want to learn in, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. If it's to learn how to do something, a skill, I think you got to be quick and to the point, because there's a YouTuber that I watched, and I'm not going to drop his channel name, but, like, some of his videos were, 45 minutes long to talk about one subject. Like, that's a little long to go in depth on one subject when, like, I get why he did it, because, he was really trying to put the knowledge out there and really trying to get people from, I guess, maybe like a ground zero type situation to, up to speed fast. And so I get it, but, like,
it's hard.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to sit there. Not everybody's got 45 minutes to dedicate to that shit.
Yeah, and it's hard to do from the creator standpoint too. Like, I've done a tutorial. I haven't published it yet on my YouTube, but I have a tutorial completed. It's about 5 minutes, and it's regarding the Focusrite interface that I have. Basically just talking about the headphone outputs, but I'll plug it if I ever decide to release it. But yeah, man, the key to a good tutorial, in my opinion, has been time times information. Like, if you can get it done within 5 minutes, I'm probably going to like your video, and I might even subscribe if you have other stuff.
Right.
But if you are going to go over 5 minutes and you have the personality of my desk, I'm not going to like it, and I'm going to not subscribe. And that is something that I'm definitely going to be conscious of when I drop whatever, tutorial video I might drop, or even like reviews and stuff. Like Unbox Therapy, if you look at his videos, like, he's actually a pretty charismatic guy too, so I don't even really mind watching his videos. But at the end of the day, they're not super long,
and I think you bring up a very valid point. Like, it makes a difference if the person delivering the information has a little bit of personality to them. Like, don't talk to me in a video monotone for 15 minutes trying to explain how to do. Like, that's, like, you're gonna lose me in probably the first 2 or 3 minutes, just because, like, it's boring.
I don't like listening to you.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, your voice is, I don't.
Yeah.
And that, like, that's fucked up. Like, because my voice it's not great at all. But at the same time, like, I can't listen to people who are trying to give me information and they talk like that.
Or the people that, like, they're talking, like, it sounds like they're 14 feet away from their mic, but, like, every time, like, I've watched a lot of videos on, like, Massive and Serum and stuff like that, where, the person's talking and they're, like, 15 feet away from the mic, and, like, you got to turn the volume up, but then they play the synth, and it's, like, the loudest sound you've ever heard in your life. And it's just, like, it's just horrible. Like, it's just, people on YouTube, YouTube is great because it's just opened up this flow of information, and you have people sharing information, and I think that all is great. But, like, the fact that everybody can do it just kind of opens it up for these pitfalls that we're talking about, where, like, you got to be careful, and it's like, where do you want to devote your time? And I always find myself looking at the time in the corner of the video before I watch it, and I'm like, ooh, 7.5 minutes.
If it's a tutorial, it better be good.
7.5 minutes could be dicey. Let's click play and see how this goes.
All right. Yeah, definitely. It's like, if you can grab me in the first, like, minute and a half, I'm like, okay, Like, you gave me some good info already. I'll hear what you have to say.
Yeah,
I'll
definitely.
hear what you have to say. Like, and that's tough. 90 seconds, to get something good out. But I guess it's all how you look at it too.
And I think it's that old thing that like when you go for a job interview, like they always tell you to focus on like your 60-second commercial. How are you going to sell yourself in 60 seconds? And I think that's
career advice from Dustin.
Yeah, exactly. All years in corporate America just coming out on display.
Coming out.
Yeah,
it's all right. This is good info.
But I think that's the thing that a lot of people miss on YouTube. They're just like, oh, I got this camera and this microphone. Let me just talk about goofy shit and my dog and like the salad that I had for lunch, and oh, did I just say that stupid thing? Ha ha ha, that was so funny. Like, no, like, okay, give me 60 seconds. You got 60 seconds to sell me on you so that I like your video or I subscribe to your channel. If I don't like it in the first 60 seconds, I'm clicking off. I'm going to go look for a different video because there's a billion other videos out there for me to go find that are going to probably be more concise.
Yeah. And I mean, at this point too, social media has grown to a point where if you get plugged by, someone of note in the industry, in any sort of sense, not even in the industry, on social media, like a social media giant like Machine Masters repost one of your videos, you're fucking on.
Yeah,
what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't matter how long your video is, people are going to be watching because, people respect Machine Masters.
For sure.
People respect iStandard, or, the list goes on and on. And I think that the key to getting in now at that point, at this point, is really being able to look ahead to see like how the industry is going to shift, because it's always moving at this point. Sure. Like, it's changed 10 times since I've even gotten in the game. It feels like it's moving at a pace that's hard to keep up with.
I'd say that's accurate. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not it's definitely not easy to try and get attention at this point, just because anybody can get a video on YouTube. Like, my mom probably has a YouTube channel at this point,
right?
Like, and I wouldn't even be shocked. Like, I wouldn't be shocked at all if my parents had a YouTube account. And that's crazy. Like, what the fuck? Like, YouTube was something that no one took serious. Like, it was just like, oh, this is a cool thing. Like, I could watch videos on here that are kind of shitty from someone's cell phone to
right.
full-blown productions. Like, full-blown fucking documentaries and movies and all this craziness.
Yeah, YouTube Red now,
YouTube Red.
Original programming and shit.
Holy shit, man. I can't believe we live in the future, dog. It's great.
We really do.
We made it.
Congratulations, you made it.
Cars drive themselves. We have supercomputers in our pockets, like the Jetsons. Did the Jetsons have They didn't have supercomputers in their pockets.
Yeah, I don't.
I don't fucking know.
It's been a long time since I've watched the Jetsons.
Did you watch the Jetsons?
Oh, yeah.
I know you did. Yeah,
the Jetsons and the Flintstones. Rocky and Bullwinkle was on point. DuckTales.
What?
Yeah, Tailspin. All of those.
The dopest theme song of all time. DuckTales.
Yeah. and one of the best Super Nintendo games that ever was. I think.
Was it Super Nintendo or was it NES?
I don't think it was NES. I want to say it was Super. It might have been NES. Hell, I don't know. Like, I just saw on Xbox Live Marketplace though that you can buy it for Xbox. It's an Xbox 360 game. They remastered it.
Remastered DuckTales. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know about that. On a completely non-audio related subject, you've seen the mini Nintendo that's coming out, right?
I can't wait.
I cannot either.
I'm not even gonna lie. At first, I was trying to downplay my excitement for it, like, oh, whatever, this hipster bullshit. Like, get this shit out. And I was like, oh wait, they're gonna have all 3 Mario Brothers on there?
Yeah, dude.
They're gonna have Contra on there?
And it's only $60, and it's only $10 for another controller. What?
Oh my god! You're in the door with $70.
Yeah, dude. As soon as I saw the price point, it was a wrap. Like, I was sold.
I was like, for $60, I'm definitely buying it though.
Yeah, for sure. Like,
for $70, and I can buy like one of those fucking will it have Duck Hunt on there? I don't know if it'll have Duck Hunt.
I don't think it's gonna have Duck Hunt. Like, the game list though was legit. Like, all the Mario Brothers.
If it had a USB though. they can release updates.
I think the controllers are done by USB. I think those were 2 USB ports on the front.
Like a little $5 update with another 20 games.
Oh, jeez. Or just
Fuck
an attachment.
you, Nintendo.
Yeah, shut up and take my money, Nintendo.
And now this.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
Well, you heard about the Pokemon Go, like that Nintendo.
They're not making money.
Yeah, Nintendo's like not actually the other company that it starts with an N as well. Is actually they're the big company behind Pokemon Go.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't see how they're going to really monetize it. I mean, unless they say in order to trade, you have to buy tokens, and then like I could see them doing some evil shit like that.
I'm sure.
That would be crazy.
I'm sure.
Everybody's waiting for it, and they're like, 5 tokens. It's $1. That's 5 trade. That wouldn't be too bad, though.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be too mad at that.
I'm not going to lie. I was never into Pokemon, but I'm definitely not one of the Pokemon haters. Like, people are playing it like it's cool. Like, I think it's actually kind of like a great social experiment because
it's awesome.
Yeah, because like you have people that have been, like we have so much technology and so much stuff at the tip of our fingers and in our house. Like, our homes are essentially entertainment centers for us. Like, you don't need to go to a movie theater anymore. You can, Definitely. But you don't need to.
Yeah.
And Pokemon Go has like really gotten people out of the house, and like you see groups of people sitting together and they're conversating and talking about, like, they're actually talking about Pokemon Go. Like, who cares? Like, people sit in their house and play Call of Duty all freaking day and yell at 12-year-olds over the internet. What makes you any better than a Pokemon Go player? I don't get it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, Pokemon Go is it's a cultural phenomenon I never saw happen or never saw coming.
Yeah.
But like, I grew up on Pokemon. I'm not even gonna lie.
Yeah.
I'm a late '80s kid. Like, Pokemon was right in my formative years. Like, right when I hit, about 5th, 6th grade. Yeah. That shit got flaming hot. So, I was really into it, but I'm not into Pokemon Go just because, I don't have a lot of time.
Right.
I can't go for walks in the woods and catch Pokemon.
Right.
And I'm not shitting on it. Like, I think it's awesome. It's on my phone. I'm level 4. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got right to the point where I could like go start fucking with gyms, but I was like, this game's not really my cup of tea. But it's dope though. It is fun. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, trying to throw Pokeballs at Pokemon that you see on your screen, like that whole AR shit is legit. Like, it's really fun. Yeah. But at the same time, it's tough for me to pull off. Like,
it's a time suck for sure.
Oh yeah, I don't have that kind of time at this point.
No, me neither.
But it's, I mean, I know grown people that play it and are really into it.
Yeah,
and that's dope. And to be honest, like, it's a great if you're a single guy. I hear. Allegedly. I wouldn't know. I never.
There's a pretty big female following for Pokemon. I think there's probably like 3 or 4 girls at my job that actually are pretty avid about playing Pokemon Go.
Hardcore into it. Yeah. I mean, like, and that's great because a lot of these guys that probably are super into Pokemon would never. Well, I wouldn't say never, but it's harder. It's harder for them, like, on a regular basis for them to be in contact with women like that. Yeah, and that was super stereotypical. I apologize ahead of time.
Yeah, but like, I mean, yeah, you're right. It is super stereotypical. Yeah. It's like that moment in Grandma's Boy, like, you're a really hot girl surrounded by in a sea of virgins. It is kind of that moment, like, like, oh, this guy's never seen a girl in real life.
Yeah, there's a lot of those guys, I'm sure, that play it.
Right.
But at the same time, there's a lot of, like, gangsters that I know that way. Like, a lot of cats that you probably wouldn't think would even like Pokemon.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, oh, you messing with that Pokemon. Okay, all right.
It's like, I'm on that Pokemon. Look at my Venusaur right now. It's like level 1900 right now, bro. Oh, my Venusaur, bro. Real shit, man.
It's too much. Oh my god, this is fantastic. This is exactly what I imagined the Audio Files podcast becoming. Is just
it's just a conversation. I don't give a fuck if nobody listens to this. I just enjoy talking to
we just happen to hit record.
Yeah, we just happen to be able to record this shit, and you guys get to listen. So,
Yeah.
I think that's a good way to wrap this. Like, we've been going for almost an hour and a half now.
Yep.
Easy, so
Yeah,
hopefully
we'll give people's ears a break.
Yeah.
Our 5 listeners at this point, and thank you, all of you, all 5 of you.
Yes, all 5. Please, all 5 hit like on the audio files. If you
Yes.
haven't, Facebook page, hit like, please.
Yeah.
I'm begging, because this is our 2nd episode and literally no one likes our shit right now. So it's all good though, because we're gonna keep doing this, and you're gonna keep getting this info, and you're gonna keep hearing about Pokemon Go and about all the other stuff that we
random
talked
nonsense.
Yeah. Our lives, basically. So
Yes, sir.
with that being said, we're signing out. I'm Rashad Peters. You can find me online at ds_Wyatt Earp. I need to fix my fucking Instagram handle. I know underscores are annoying, but that's where you can find me.
Yeah.
Dustin on Facebook, right?
Yep.
Dustin Brookshire on Facebook. Holla at us, like that fucking Facebook page. We's out.
Peace.